Okay, hey everybody. It's Kyle here. I'm going to review uh, Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I saw it for the second time today, and I thought I'd review it here because I hadn't reviewed it the first time around since I didn't have this YouTube channel. So I thought, you know what? Why don't I review this movie? Since I'm starting this YouTube channel. Um, I'll preface this review by saying that it's not going to be like my door review, which was completely unorganized, completely a mess. It was my first video, so keep credit. Do not expect this to be a two-parter. It's going to be one part. It's going to be as short as it can be, because I'm going to mainly make it a review and not an analysis of the film. So, first off, I will say that I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a second time, mainly also because I liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love it. I liked it a lot. So, I thought of seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood today because today is August 9th, 2019. Um, of course, August 9th, 1969 was when um, the unfortunate events of um, the movie occur. So I thought that it would be somewhat um, um, important. I don't know how to say this. I thought that this movie would be almost by seeing it today, I would be honoring Sharon Tate by watching this film um, coming out today. Um, I really, really um, thought that the second time of this film wouldn't be as exciting as the first time, mainly because I know what's going to happen, but I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not going to spoil this movie here. I'll probably do a spoiler review. If I wanted to, I'll do it later down the road, but okay, so Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. First off, let me get off my main two complaints about this movie. The first issue I have with this film is that there is a narration. In fact, there are several narrations in the film by Kurt Russell. And the first time I watched it, the first narration that pops up I thought was kind of funny. And I thought to myself that maybe this narration will be throughout the film, it will occur throughout the film in various parts, and it'll provide some insight. Boy, was I wrong, because the narration itself is pretty much absent from the entire film except for two parts. The first part, when um I'll just use Kurt Russell's name. So when Kurt Russell is trying to explain why Rick has to be driven by Cliff throughout the entire film, which is something that you wouldn't get out of no narration being added, but I thought that it was actually kind of funny, provided the circumstances in that one scene. However, when I watched it the second time, that narration ended up being very, very disjointed, and knowing that it doesn't pop up for a while, it's kind of unnecessary. It could have been, I think it could have been a deleted scene of the movie. Um, then the narration pops up near the end when there's a 6 month time jump, and that narration is very exposition heavy, and it's basically trying to explain to the audience what happened in the 6 months time jump. But I don't think that is as necessary either, because I mean, as you see in Avengers Endgame, when they have the 5 year time jump, you don't have Captain America narrating in the 5 years this happened. But then again, what's interesting about this narration is that there are important things that happened that need to be covered in narration. So that could be necessary. I just feel that you can either go two directions. You can have no narration at all, and the film will be just as good. Or you have narration, but put more narration and make it not seem kind of out of place. Because, see, Deadpool does this. Deadpool has narration, at least in actually the first two, both Deadpools have narration in them, and both of those Deadpools use the narration pretty well. There's so many other movies with narration, but that's just an example I'm thinking of off the top of my head. And with this movie, the narration just kind of fell out of place. But one of at least the first narrated scene, the first time I saw it, got me some laughs. So I don't know. That's my first issue. The second issue I have has to do with the scene with, and I'm not going to go into spoilers, but it's one of the scenes, and it's in the trailers of um, Leonardo DiCaprio's character Rick Dalton forgetting one of his lines in a scene for the show Lancer. But the problem with this scene is they spend about, I'd say, well, it feels like 10 minutes on the shooting of this particular pivotal scene in this TV show. And the scene that they decided to show, the fact that they make it like 10 minutes long, it starts to really drag. And I've been seeing all these reviewers and all these comments coming out against, ooh, the Sharon Tate scenes, at least the scene in the theater with Sharon Tate was very unnecessary. I disagree. The scene with Cliff Booth going to the Manson house in Spawn's Movie Ranch is very unnecessary. I disagree with that one because I definitely believe both of those scenes are important. Um, the scene with Rick Dalton on this Lancer show is also important, but this scene is about 10 minutes long. I feel like it could have been cut down a little bit. I don't find that I, while watching this movie, at least watching this scene, am so invested in what's going on. It's cool to see how they film a television series, but I don't know, I got kind of, at least the second time watching it, I got kind of bored watching that scene. Um, and that was like the only scene in the entire movie, in this entire almost 3 hour film. Watching it a second time, I got bored in. So that's saying something. Um, what else is there? So you have that scene. I understand it's a build up to the particular joke that you also see in the trailers where Rick is just like having a mental breakdown over his forgetting the lines and everything, and he's like, um, duh, 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 duh. You're so stupid. Why'd you forget these lines? Duh, 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 duh. What's the line? What's the line? You know, and he just gets so angry and stuff. I love it. It's a scene that um I wouldn't be surprised if Leo is nominated for Best Actor this year, for that one scene alone. Um, but yeah, I think those are the two things: the whole narration and the part with Leo, Rick Dalton in this Lancer scene that I thought ran on a bit too long. But those are pretty much my only gripes with this movie. Um, I can't really say that it's not as good as the other Quentin Tarantino movies and use that as a issue because I don't think it's fair saying that one movie is not as good as the other, given that on its own the movie is pretty damn good and much better than, say, any of the other movies that have come out this year. At least most of the other movies. It's not my favorite movie of the year, but it's close. So those are my issues with the movie. Now, let's get into what I love about this film. Everything else. um, this film is, I think, I will say this myself, and a lot of people probably will disagree, but I find this is Quentin Tarantino's most meaningful film, given that it is something that is personal to him, and every film he's made has been personal to him in some sort of way or the other. But this movie is so much more meaningful to Quentin because it's a movie about a time that he lived in. And he is basically shining a lens and camera view on his life and showing us what it was like to live in 1969. Even though he was like, I believe, 5 or 6, I don't know. But he was very young. And it's very interesting to see a director become that personal with the audience, because there are many directors out there that they have their personal angles into films. Every director does, but they don't tend to make a movie, say, about what it was like to live in a time. And I find that's kind of unique. So I think it's his most meaningful film. I think what's also good about this movie is this is something that I picked up watching it. I haven't seen any reviews go over it. Some touches of what I'm thinking of, but I view this movie as saying, yes, Sharon Tate did not live the life that she should have lived, but Sharon Tate was a movie star. I mean, I guess you can say she was a movie star. She is, at the time, I don't know how famous she was, but she was in movies and she loved movies. And this movie, I think what it does is it pays respect to Sharon Tate by saying Sharon Tate may not be alive today, but she still lives in movies. And it is through film, it is through the movies that we are able to see Sharon Tate again. And that's also a way that this film not only shows us the character of Sharon Tate, because, I mean, any film can do that. You can have Ray show us the character of Ray Charles. You can have um, Lincoln show us the character of Abraham Lincoln. You can have all these different biopics show us different versions of different real life historical figures. But the fact that they show us Sharon Tate in this movie, portrayed brilliantly by Margot Robbie. Um, she's, I don't think she's given enough credit, because the thing is she's not given a gigantic role. It looks as if when you're coming into this film that she's going to be the third main character of this movie, which is, I guess you can say she is the third main character of this movie, and she is important to this film. But you have mainly the characters of Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and Cliff Booth, his stuntman, played by Brad Pitt. They are the ones that the movie tends to focus more on, the more so fictional characters. But the meaning of this film is all based around Sharon Tate. She is the heart and soul of this movie. Um, what is it like to be a star, a rising star in Hollywood? What is it like to be an aging star in Hollywood? And how do those different types of stars compare and contrast with each other? So that is something that I found to be an interesting angle. But Margot Robbie gives such a wonderful performance. I've been watching interviews of Sharon Tate, and she just embodies the spirit of Sharon Tate, the voice of Sharon Tate, the characteristics, everything about Sharon Tate is seen on screen by Margot Robbie, to the point where Sharon Tate's sister actually gave Margot Robbie Sharon's actual earrings. And she's wearing them in the movie. And I caught them the second time watching it. I caught them in a shot in the car. And I was like, wow, that adds a whole other layer to it. And one of the best parts about this movie that I really like is the fact that you see Sharon Tate, the real Sharon Tate, in the films that they show, at least the one film, The Wrecking Crew. And when Margot Robbie's Sharon Tate goes to see the movie, you see scenes from the actual film of the actual Sharon Tate showing her both fighting abilities and her acting abilities to us in this one film. So we were watching a movie of somebody watching a movie, which is one of the best ways to watch a movie. But I really think that Margot Robbie is great in this movie. I do not believe that this is her best performance. It is still. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if I can say what her, because every role she gives is equally so. I mean, I don't even know if I can say. You know, I'll take that back. This movie is just another example of how great of an actress Margot Robbie is. Because whether she's Harley Quinn, whether she's Tanya Harding, whether she's Jordan Belfort's wife, that I don't remember the name of, but whether she's any of these characters we see her on screen, she is equally as good. So she's just great in this. Leonardo DiCaprio is terrific in this. This is just another example of one of the reasons why Leo is, well, in my opinion, my three favorite actors are Leonardo DiCaprio, Ryan Gosling, and Christian Bale. It's kind of hard for me to choose which one's the best one, but this is one of the reasons why Leo is one of my favorite actors. He is able to just transform into any role, and you can have him playing in The Revenant, you can have him playing in The Wolf of Wall Street, you can have him playing in Django Unchained, Titanic, Inception, The Aviator, the list goes on, and he delivers just stunning performances. And this is a role, him playing Rick Dalton, a man that is struggling to keep his reputation in Hollywood alive, keep his career going, even though he's a actor that is now stuck into becoming the bad guy on television shows. And see, he is just, it's kind of funny because with Leo, this is the opposite of the way his career went. Instead of his career going from a peak and then a decline, so Rick Dalton's career goes from bounty law and then down. Leo's just he keeps on climbing up, and this is a great performance. I love how he stutters a lot of this times you see him in the movie. I love how he's got this temper that just will not um, will not tame itself. It's just so livid and so just ferocious, I guess you can say. It's such a great character. And his relationship with Brad Pitt's character Cliff Booth, who plays Rick Stuntman, is such a endearing relationship and something that I didn't expect walking into this film. I did not expect to see how great of a group of guys these guys are together. I heard things from reviews, I read interviews and stuff, but to witness it on screen is a whole other thing. Because Cliff Booth, I'm hearing these people online saying that Cliff Booth is one of the greatest cinematic characters in the history of film. And I do not disagree with that because he is just amazing. I mean, I'm watching this guy act, and well, Brad Pitt acting as Cliff Booth, but I'm watching this character, and he's just so funny to watch because he doesn't care about anything. The only thing he cares about is his dog, and I guess Rick, because most of the movie he's like just giving Rick support, and it's such a cool thing to see two guys that have been friends for so long stick up for one and the other, and just, I mean, I know there's this one scene where Rick and um, Cliff are just talking, and Rick's all upset because Al Pacino's character, his last name is Schwartz, not Schwartz. Um, Schwartz is trying to get Rick to star in Italian westerns, and Rick's like, "No, I'm not gonna star in these. Why do I want to star in these? What is what is the purpose of an Italian western? It's so stupid." And Cliff walks over to him. And he's like, "Rick, old buddy, like, I think it won't be a bad thing. You just gotta let it happen. But I'm with you to the end of the line." It's like he's basically the Captain America and Bucky relationship, but in the 1960s. So it's a great dynamic, and Cliff is just so cool, and all the ladies love this guy, at least the ones in this movie. Um, and his past is so sketchy but mysterious, and um, he's just an all around great character. Um, I'm not gonna talk about the I should say the villains in this movie because today I'm doing this video to honor Sharon Tate, and I'm not gonna talk about the people that don't need to be mentioned for today because today is a day to reflect on Sharon Tate and Jace Sebring, um, the um, the heiress to the Folger fortune, and the other guys whose name I'm forgetting. I feel so bad, but to honor those who passed away this day 50 years ago. But I'll just say that Tarantino paid respect in the best of ways, and it made for a very meaningful film. When I first saw it, I actually shed a bit of a tear because I kind of hit me that Sharon Tate is still watching these. I mean, she's not watching, but she is in the movies today, and we are watching a movie that has Sharon Tate in it, and that's something that's really cool. Um, Tarantino does a great job directing it. The script is phenomenal. I actually thought it was funny because the first time I saw it, I thought there were many funny jokes in it. But the second time I watched it, I didn't really laugh that much. I thought it was kind of just, I thought it was cool, but entertaining. But I took it more seriously the second time, and I think it's probably one of Tarantino's better scripts, just because it's so different than I feel his other scripts are. Not saying that this is better than Kill Bill, Pulp Fiction, but I just think that it's kind of cool to see a different style because there's Tarantino sprinkled in there, but I feel like he tried to do something that was so different than what he has usually done that it worked. So I don't know if there is a score to this movie. If there is, I liked what I heard. Um, I couldn't quite tell what was the score and what was just an instrumental song, but the music in this is amazing. I need to get the soundtrack. I don't know where to get it. Hopefully Barnes and Nobles will put it out. If they don't, I'll probably have to resort to Amazon because the Hateful Eight soundtrack was just amazing, and I got a lot of Tarantino soundtracks. So I think the only one I don't have might be Django, but I might not have Jackie Brown either. But the music's amazing. The city of Los Angeles is just incredibly reimagined in this movie. I mean, they need to get something, at least a nomination at the Oscars for production design, because the fact that they transformed the city of Los Angeles present day to the city of Los Angeles in 1969, and I mean that isn't an easy thing to do. And it was practical effects. I'm pretty sure most of it was practical effects. It's flawless. I don't know. There's probably one scene, one mess up that they added like a AT&T store you see from far distance or something like that. But like I didn't see anything that I could spot. It looked so real. It looked so much like 1969 would. And I looked at some pictures, and a bunch of the pictures all had just like frame to frame exact um just like what we see in the film. But I love the driving shots in this movie. There's some driving shots that are actually pretty fun to watch. I felt like it was like a roller coaster, like I was in this ride, the Quentin Tarantino tour of LA 1969, and I had a lot of fun watching, like seeing what it was like to drive by all these different city streets, the different movie theaters. That's one thing I took into account, that there's a lot of movie theaters. Now, I don't know anything about Los Angeles, um, aside from like basic facts, but I know how many movie theaters were like right next to each other. There was a movie theater here, and then there was a movie theater like right here. And it's like, do they take business away from each other? Like, I wish I had that movie theaters. Um, I wish movie theaters were that close to me, because for me, I have to go to my Regal, and the next movie theater is like 3 miles away, and that one may or may not be that good. So the fact that at least in 1969 LA there were so many theaters next to each other, I thought that was really cool. And I'm is there any? I very much like this one actress in the movie, Margaret Qualley. She played a very um, well, her performance was quite exceptional. I think she has a career ahead of her. I noticed Cassie from Euphoria was in this, and I thought that was kind of um, um, amazing because I love Cassie from Euphoria, and it was so cool to see it a second time, not knowing that she was in it the first time, knowing that she was in when I went to see it the second time, and I was like, oh boy, that's Cassie. And Robin from Stranger Things season 3 is in it, and Dakota Fanning was good. All the actors were all around solid. Um, so anyway, if I would rate this movie, I would say that it is a 9 out of 10. I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10, because if I gave it a 10 out of 10, that would mean there would be no faults. And as I said, there are a couple things that this movie has against it. But I would give it a 9 out of 10. And I would give it an A for review. And is there any other rating? So, and then I would give it 3.5 out of 4 stars. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is an amazing movie. It is a pleasure to watch. The runtime is long, so if you are not into movies that are almost 3 hours long, just wait to see it. But I urge everyone to see this movie. And anyway, this is the end of my review, and I'll just end it off with um, if you want to do anything cool today, watch a Sharon Tate movie. I may, in fact, watch one. I may watch The Wrecking Crew, and just have a great day. So, goodbye, and um, I can't think of something else to say for a Tarantino movie. So, yep, I got nothing. Anyway, bye. Talk to you guys later.